But we're going to kind of start at the 30,000 foot view of this human capital component for the first part, and then drill down to this concept of diversity and equity within some of those choices. So we figured we'd start at the larger place and then work down to a subset to say, as we think of all of this, how do we make sure that within this process there is diversity, there's equity, there's representation of all different kind of student groups. So again, I wanted to thank you for completing the survey, and we're going to really kind of use the small groups to kind of address the what, the who, and the how. And so as you are working on some of these thoughts, keep in mind two things. And one is that, we realize that there's some great work going on, but sometimes that work is going on in silos. So as you're thinking of some of these ideas, please make sure that you're thinking about it as a way across LEA, so that there's multiple districts. And it might just be 2 districts, it might be 3 districts, but think about it so that we can have the work being cross-pollinated across districts as opposed to solely in isolation. And then the second thing to kind of think in mind is, how can technology or blended learning play a role in some of your work? And it doesn't mean it absolutely has to. And when we work on the second part of this, I'm going to show you something so old school that Sean almost fell over when I showed it to him. But realizing that not everything has to be on a technology device to be effective, but if it can be, and if there are ways to do it, let's try it. So the first thing that we're going to have you work in these smaller groups is we're first going to start out with the thought of, how do we identify new content? And so many of you on the survey shared different ways that kind of the thing even comes up. But some of the questions to think about, and I've written it on a board so you'll be able to reference it as you're in your group, is to be thinking about, what is the catalyst for why new content gets created in your LEA? Is it standards? Is it students? Is it technology? Is it outdated materials? Like, what is the genesis for that? And then, because there were varied approaches that were identified in the survey, kind of how does the composition of the people that are making the proposals for new content affect what's even being put out? So be thinking about what's the composition, and are students included in any of the process, as far as, are they kind of some of the decision makers where they're helping you affect change in what that curriculum looks like? And then buying versus building. Like, what's that price point? What's that pushback? What factors into the decision of whether you're willing to purchase something, or whether you feel like we could create it in-house when we have that skill set? And then, are there current trends or current issues that factor into it?